You have a fate and it's miserable. This is my second video on fatalism. I want to give a quick recap of my last video. I made a philosophy darker than looks maxing. In this video I introduced fatalism and how it relates to wealth. The argument being made is that wealth is mostly predetermined at birth, from wealthy parents and your background. The idea is that if people inherit wealth from their parents, then that means the outcomes of people's lives were predetermined from birth. So expectations and dreams about growing rich or even getting promoted at work are things outside of your control. Therefore, wealth is not self-made, but just luck for very few people. I got resistance from people about my fatalism, friends and online, and only got agreement from a couple of people. I believe part of this resistance is mostly due to the indoctrination of hustle culture and dreams being sold about entrepreneurship and growing rich. But is avoiding fatalism better? Fatalism, as I presented it, is a gloomy philosophy, but I don't think ignoring it is any better. I want to talk about an existential crisis loop, which is the result of avoiding fatalism. So the following questions: what is an existential crisis and how do they occur? Then finally, what is the existential loop? Theories of well-being. Before delving into crisis and how it works, first the definition of well-being will help. Let me introduce to you two theories of well-being. So the first one is objectivist theory of well-being. This argues that well-being is a property that can be objectively measured and assessed. And then we have desire fulfillment theory of well-being. And this theory suggests that an individual's well-being is directly related to the satisfaction of their desires and the extent to which their goals are achieved. So, DFT, as formulated, desire fulfillment theory, could claim that there is a personal list of what an individual could want. For example, a mountain climber wants to reach the top of a mountain, and this desire, when fulfilled, could positively contribute to the mountain climber's well-being. But consider this: vegetables being good for your health because of vitamin K could be considered an example of OLT, objectivist theory, as it is a statement about what is good for a person based on objective facts about the effects of vegetables on health. So OLT can also include things like getting enough sleep and exercise and other things. This theory also holds that these types of things are objectively good for a person's well-being, regardless of whether people desire them or not. In contrast to DFT, a person's well-being is not influenced by the objective value of what they desire, but rather by the fact that they desire it. Well, objective well-being. I want to keep OLT in mind. It's my favorite philosophy, and it's stronger compared to other theories of well-being. I want to introduce a couple more theories to make a complete picture. Let me introduce consequentialism as well. It is the idea that individuals make informed decisions based on the consequences of that decision. Those consequences, therefore, make up the reasons of a decision. Those reasons are data. For example, I decide to eat an orange. That's an action, because oranges are rich in vitamin C. Data. Alright. Then the next thing, attitude psychology. Now, why is this important? In the study of attitudes, individuals have some degree of like or dislike towards an object, person, or idea. For instance, Bob can be passionate about sports cars, Lisa can have negative feelings towards colleagues who frequently complain about hygiene at the workplace, and Tom can have a preference for only chocolate ice cream. All these examples can be viewed as attitudes. In practice, our actions are often driven by them. For instance, the decision to eat vegetables instead of hamburgers may stem from the attitude that hamburgers are bad to one's health. For example, I decide to eat vegetables because hamburgers are unhealthy. The reasons that support your decisions are pieces of data. And if your beliefs or data are inconsistent with what is true, you experience an inconsistency of beliefs. Actually, hamburgers are not unhealthy. They just don't contain that much nutrients. If reasons are inconsistent with what is true, you update your justification. I decide to eat vegetables because vegetables are more nutritious than hamburgers. Having the right beliefs or attitudes plays a crucial role in decision making. If our beliefs are incorrect, we have the opportunity to update them in order to make better decisions. This can be seen in the example of someone who initially believes that medicine is not important because of the placebo effect. But after updating their knowledge, they realize the significance of it. Attitudes serve as a means to an end. Attitudes are instrumental, helping us achieve our desired outcomes, such as getting in shape through sports or getting higher income. However, if our attitudes and the beliefs within them prove to be ineffective, we have the ability to revise them in order to optimize decision making. This example is important because it shows the relationship between cognitive dissonance and OLT of well-being. By updating their beliefs and making decisions that align with their objective needs, the person assumes that he is improving his life in an objective manner. In other words, cognitive dissonance prompts individuals to resolve inconsistencies and align their beliefs and behaviors with outcomes they deem objectively important to their well-being. Alright, the next topic. The functionality of depression. So all of these pieces will be important to make the complete picture. So the next one. Our emotions like depression play an important role in this process of the cognitive dissonance and revising. Now how, you may ask? According to a scientific study performed on mice, they dropped mice in a tube of water with no way of escape. After a while, the mice stopped trying to escape the water and stayed stationary in the water. Now there are different interpretations to this phenomenon. One of the interpretations is that when the mice try to put time and energy into escaping, but it doesn't lead to a desired result, the action was ineffective, they give up because they're wasting their time and energy. So the mice become depressed. Depression helps individuals recognize when their attitudes and beliefs are not leading to desired outcomes and prompts them to reevaluate and potentially let go of these attitudes. When we invest time and energy into a particular attitude or belief, but fail to see the desired outcome, it can lead to feelings of depression. We let it go and forget about it. Like Bob, who is passionate about sports cars, but he never got to own one himself. Alright, next topic, change of self. Someone may have chosen a career in farming because they were told it would bring them financial stability. But they may later find that the job is not as fulfilling as they had hoped. Someone may believe that starting a TikTok can get him famous, but then realizes he is competing with a sea of people online, also starting a business or TikTok. It is common to believe that all our preferences will be satisfied. A high salary, financial freedom, fulfillment, and leisure. However, it can be disappointing to discover that our passions were overestimated and our attitudes were ineffective. This realization can result in feelings and a sense of purposelessness. Our attitudes are part of our personality and a long-term strategy. If that strategy is ineffective, it takes away an entire part of our personality. So we need new information for a new strategy and attitude. So people start questioning, what does it all mean? What do I do? They become existential. And during these moments, we turn to stuff that offers us inspiration, like music or art, as a way to make sense of this lifestyle change. When people get depressed, they let go of old beliefs and are in need of a new set of beliefs, attitudes, to adapt to a new lifestyle. This process of reflection and self-discovery can lead to the formulation of new goals and a new sense of purpose in life. This is what I should do. This is my new goal, and my new beliefs will help me succeed in that. Taking it all together, the process looks something like the following. You gain information, you go on TikTok and you see how small accounts can grow overnight with some viral reel. You do some research on the internet and you figure out that the TikTok algorithm is focused on helping small accounts growing big fast. You try to start a TikTok yourself by selling soap. You may experience some peak, but your views are not going that hard. You become disappointed. You do some more research and thinking, and figure out that the platform was maybe designed to keep you addicted and invested into the app. Not only this, but you couldn't get your reels as polished as other creators maybe. Also, you're competing in a sea of creators. You become depressed, disappointed. You're thinking of a new strategy. Maybe you should be doing dropshipping. It doesn't require an algorithm and your success is more based on the quality of the product. You just happen to know something truly unique that could sell really hard on AliExpress and so on. And then the process starts again. You gain information about AliExpress. You have a new strategy. There's new obstacles coming. You become disappointed, you become depressed, and again. Next topic, the reinvention of the self. I want to delve deeper into how people gain inspiration when they feel lost. It is due to dopamine. This brain molecule is responsible for people yearning for more, leaving them unsatisfied with what they already possess. It is because in order to get objectively better off, like stated in OLT, the brain is also wired to also think and dream about better scenarios. And those dreams are very abstract. So it requires abstract thinking in order to strategize concretely. Let's go back to the question of depression. When reality breaks our expectations and we experience dissonance, like having expectations for our career or venture, and our dream gets shattered and our strategy deems ineffective, we need to revise our plan. Let's say you did writing, but your laptop has died. Now you need to look for a new hobby. You become depressed and start thinking of new ideas. Like, let's say, embroidery. People recover from a depression with insights that functions as new data, informing people what course of action to take. This new data is their new meaning or purpose. Now the final part, the existential loop. At the beginning of the video I mentioned an existential loop. Now you know how an existential crisis works. What is the existential loop exactly? Now you know the process. You gain information, you strategize, you encounter obstacles, you retreat, and then repeat the process. It's similar to a gambling addiction, getting highs and lows, having dreams, and then ending up in depression. And it seems very miserable as well. This is what I call the existential loop. It's a constant search for purpose, but always ending up feeling miserable about your life. If you're like me, even my existential loop started having its own existential crisis. I started questioning, how could I get out of this? Is there an answer or solution to the existential loop? It took me a very long time. I came up with some answers, but my biggest answer it is fatalism. After learning it is difficult to grow from somewhere, I started thinking people's fate might just be predetermined from the start, like certain principles govern this universe. I've talked about these concepts in my previous video. The arguments that I make can be viewed as principles that determine your fate. Mostly only the rich get richer. If you don't have the money to start a venture, you solely rely on luck between a sea of other creators and sellers online and outside. Accepting fatalism might seem bad, but getting stuck in an existential loop and living with broken dreams seems more miserable to me. By accepting fatalism, you're at least being more realistic. The realism and honesty of fatalism is more respectable than the dream and misery of hustle culture. And this is not just a piece of poetry that I'm trying to share. This makes sense psychologically because people are driven to make informed decisions, and also our emotions like depression function as an instrument for change. There's one more question. Is there really no way out of fatalism? There is one way to get out of fatalism, but it is not as easy and requires a huge sacrifice. I will talk about it in the next video. Thanks for watching.